From America's heartland, this is GJRB, Clinton, Iowa. The following is a GJRB podcast presentation. Now, GJRB presents The Last 7 Days. In this time of lawlessness and utter chaos, there's a program that puts it all into perspective. This is the program where men and women gather to discuss current events and how it lines up with Bible prophecy. And now, The Last 7 Days.
Okay, so start out with a little good news. Remember about 2018, InterVarsity Press at the University of Iowa made news because the University of Iowa said to InterVarsity Press, if the leadership of your organization denies homosexuals from in your group, then you can't be on the University of Iowa campus. Well, court hands stunning victory to InterVarsity Christian Fellowship rules. The University of Iowa officials must pay from their own pockets for religious discrimination. They lost in federal court. University of Iowa did, and actually said that the president was also liable financially.
Ooh, we don't feel so good.
Yeah.
That's good that they're going after the people that organization is all they do.
That's why they put it in the court, so that they don't have to, so that they won't come
Or
out
they
there.
just absorb the cost in
Corporations.
corporations.
So, this is good news. Along with InterVarsity, the University of Iowa kicked out other religious groups off the campus as well that also would not agree to have, for instance, Sikhs. The Sikhs were kicked off because they wouldn't allow a gay person or a Muslim person to run the Sikhs. The Muslims were kicked off. Also, the Latter-day Saints were kicked off.
Really?
However, they didn't kick all the groups off. There was other religious groups, gay people, gay Christian groups, I'm sure, doesn't say, that was favored by the campus and were excluded from the mass ejection. So
They thought they were going to be smart and say, well, then eject all of them, go one except this, so they can't face discrimination, fulfill discrimination.
Right. Next article, trans faith takes over the church, transgender pastors and renaming ceremonies.
Oh, geez.
A pandemic of perversion has engulfed our society as the LGBTQ activists demand that we bow down at the altar of moral relativism. But instead of providing clear biblical answers to this cultural chaos, many churches have fallen in league with them by aligning the gospel message to conform with the twisted mindset. Here's a few examples I have here. The Church of England are renaming ceremonies for the new identity of names of people. People are deciding that they are, say, is Peter, and so they're going to become a woman, so now they're Kathy, and so they're being rebaptized as Kathy. It's technically not supposed to. They're technically saying it's not rebaptism, but actually that's what it is. So that's what they're having, this renaming ceremonies. They're called renaming ceremonies, but they're actually doing the baptism. The UK Mirror newspaper recently featured a story of a 7-year-old child who had recently transitioned, and the mother commented how important the church's rebaptism ceremony was in affirming this change, noting that the vicar was even wearing a silk rainbow scarf in support of the LGBT rights during the ceremony. The Church of England's new pastoral guidance, they always have a pastoral guidance booklet, advises clergy to refer to transgender people by their new name. The guidance, which was voted on, wasn't even close, showing how far the Church of England has sunk. The vote was overwhelmingly in favor of the new ritual. They have like 3 layers of leadership. The House of Bishops came down 30 to 2 in favor of, with 2 abstentions. The House of Clergy voted its assent on 127 to 28, with 16 clergy abstaining, and the House of Laity showed 127 votes in favor, with only 48 in opposition and 8 more marked as absentation. So overwhelmingly, this was voted into. The guidance for the ceremony, while stopping short of calling it baptism, details how elements including water and oil can be incorporated in the service, as well as how candidates can be presented with gifts such as a Bible inscribed with their name, their chosen name, or a certificate. The guidance further notes that for a trans person to be addressed liturgically by the minister for the first time by his chosen name may be a powerful moment in the service. In fact, the Anglican ceremony specifically asks the candidate for baptism. This is in rebaptism. Do you turn away from sin? Do you reject evil? Do you trust Christ as Savior? Do you trust Him as Lord? Incredibly, under the new ritual, the candidate is expected to answer, I do, to each question, while at the same time affirming to live just the opposite. And after you get rebaptized, then you get a Bible with your name, your chosen name in it. A member of the same clergy.
This is not going to end well.
A member also of the Anglican faith, Church of England, member of the same clergy that once presided over the coronation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, has now said that he prays that a great-grandson, Prince George, age 6, might become a homosexual in order to increase the present tolerance for the LGBT community.
What's the name?
The guy who was a part of the...
They want this little
They're praying that
guy.
their grandson, 6 years old, will become homosexual to increase the tolerance to the LGBT community.
Of course they would, because they're royal.
Yes.
Well, they said that guy that hung himself in prison, they're saying this lady came forward and said that that Prince Edward was part of that scandal.
Right, he was. Church
Oh,
of
that girl, I don't want to see her.
Church of
I don't want to
Sweden
see her.
announces
Oh, the one that was
Greta
I
Thunbergh
don't want to see her.
successor to Jesus.
Yeah,
Oh, that girl?
that's what it was.
Successor to Jesus.
Don't even want to hear
Now,
her.
what's his name?
That's the crybaby who cried when he
Greta Thunberg.
She's 16 years old from Switzerland. She's come to this country. And they're letting her, from Sweden,
Yeah.
I can't remember, but she comes over and
Cried.
blasts
Cried.
about the,
No, where they
global
say
warming
that.
thing, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
the
even
global
like
warming
this.
hoax, which that's what I call it.
I've heard,
She was
I've seen her.
Little girl with Asperger's that was used as a puppet for
Is that
a
right?
political move, yeah.
She has Asperger's? Huh.
I think she was in Iowa City just recently. I think.
Yeah, she was in
Oh
Iowa.
my
I
God.
saw her on TV.
Big rock.
But anyhow,
You know, when you use somebody that has problems like that, it doesn't end well usually. God doesn't like it when you use things like that.
Well, that's just like they use those Down syndrome kids to
Yeah, I'm all for
for homosexual.
Well, I had it over Facebook though. That
so anyhow, according to the Church of Sweden, she's now going to be the successor of Jesus.
the thing here is that they're saying that it's like the Nazis.
Getting out of school, those people.
The Nazis use kids to spread their propaganda.
Yeah, you're
Well,
right.
That's what they've done.
Yeah.
In the past.
And the Presbyterian Church USA, all my lads.
Oh, what?
One goes
These
all
people never cease to amaze me.
The Presbyterian.
I wish I had a color article It's very impressive, actually. PC USA congregations host pagan sculpture in the church, right on the altar.
Is that a skeleton?
That is a pagan god, 15 feet high.
Yeah, Trump is it?
In a Presbyterian church.
That's Trump.
It's known as Skoltavit. It has a number of names, actually. Skoltavit. But anyhow, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 variations. Anyhow, it's the Slavic god of war, fertility, and abundance in the Baltic region. And it's now in the United Presbyterian Church, Binghamton, New York. And I wish you could see it. You could just kind of make it out. But right sitting on the altar, right on their altar, is a pagan god. Now, it's only there for a while. It's kind of a traveling pagan god.
Well, of course, because you have to, go with the altars and demoralize our church.
This is what it says. A Presbyterian Church USA congregation in New York has garnered controversy for its decision to host a pagan sculpture on their property. Not only on their property, on their altar. The United Presbyterian Church of Brigham, a PC USA congregation associated with pro-LGBT group More Light Presbyterians, hosted a 15-foot tall totem sculpture known as the Skaldsavik Void or something like that.
Okay.
Anyhow,
That's
so, yeah.
Meaningless.
That part where in Exodus 23, thou shalt have no other God before me, apparently is kind of old.
Doesn't go here.
How long do you think it will be before God is provoked enough to answer these people?
Well,
They kind of alter the thing.
we don't know.
I kind of like to alternate it with good news.
No comment this evening.
Okay.
Okay, can anybody tell me, because I've kind of told this already, I've already told it, what is the fastest growing Christian nation on the face of the earth right now? It was China.
No.
There's a new nation now that is the fastest growing church in the world.
Really?
Where?
Well, I haven't said where. Any guesses?
Philippines?
China.
Iran. Fastest growing church in any country right now.
Well, that's probably not going over real well, is it?
Oh,
You're just gonna die.
Dying.
Iran, the fastest growing church, despite no buildings, and it's mostly led by women. Mostly all led by women.
It is. Isn't that sad?
No men.
Well, they're probably all being killed.
That's it. A new film tells the story of the fastest growing church in the world, an underground persecuted Christian movement in a country known for exporting radical Islamic terrorism, Iran.
Wow.
People in Iran, a Muslim majority nation, are fleeing Islam in droves as believers bow their knees to Jesus and become aggressively pro-Israel, according to the documentary Sheep Among Wolves, Volume 2. What if I told you Islam is dead? One unidentified Iranian church leader says in the film, which was directed by Dalton Thomas and produced by Frontier Alliance International Studios. What if I told you the mosques are empty inside Iran? He continues. What if I told you that no one follows Islam inside of Iran? Would you believe me? This is exactly what's happening inside of Iran. God is moving powerfully inside of Iran.
What movie is it?
Sheep Among Wolves, it's called. The pastor adds, what if I told you the best evangelist for Jesus was Ayatollah Khomeini? The Ayatollahs brought the true face of Islam to and people discovered it was a lie. After 40 years under Islamic law, a utopia according to them, they've had the worst devastation in the 5,000-year history of Iran. Thomas calls the movement an Iran awakening. It owns no property, no buildings, no central leadership, and is predominantly led by women, he said in a statement. Named after the Bible verse Matthew 10:16, which says, "Behold, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, so be wise as serpents and as innocent as doves." The documentary claims Muslim background Iranians are leading a quiet but mass exodus out of Islam, bowing their knees to the Jewish Messiah with kindled affection towards the Jewish people. But the new believers in the Islamic Republic face great risk. We know that if they get us, the first thing they'll do as a woman is to rape us. Then they will beat us, and ultimately they will kill us. One believer said, "This is the decision we made that we want to offer our bodies as sacrifices. Because I have this thought when I wake up, that when I leave, that the door I might not come back." A leader of the Iranian underground church explains their goal is not planting churches, but rather making disciples. The majority of whom are women. The disciples forsake the world and cling to Jesus till he comes. Converts don't. The leader said, "Disciples aren't engaged in cultural war. Converts are. Disciples cherish, obey, and share the word of God. Converts don't. Disciples choose Jesus over anything and everything else. Converts don't. Converts run when the fire comes. Disciples don't." And a pastor explains everything that they do underground is built on prayer. We find people of peace through prayer. We even find locations through prayer, he says. Jesus has come in their dreams, and he's come miraculously in their lives. When we hear this, we know that Jesus has gone ahead of us. So, Iran, fastest growing church in the world right now.
Because this is women.
And Dan, this goes with your article of all the things that people are gathering about us. Google, creator of the covert God-like AI tool. Understandably, most people think Google is a search engine business, but according to the former employee, Google is all about information, how to collect it, how to store it, and how to organize it, and how to use it. Interesting. This is interesting. Google's motto. Does anybody know what Google's motto was? I didn't know it until this. Google's motto, as of spring of 2018, was, "Don't be evil." Don't be evil. That was Google's motto. But they dropped it.
Imagine that.
What's the deal?
They couldn't live up to their motto.
What's the deal with a whistleblower from Google? What was he
Yeah.
blowing a whistle about?
Well, that's
Do you know?
That's what this is.
His name is Zach, that's all I know.
Yeah.
But that's
The
what
kind of information that
That's
they're
it.
collecting.
you know?
Well, no, just let me read the article, and this is what it is.
Oh, okay. It's there, huh?
The motto for search engine giant, geez, this guy right here. The motto for search engine giant used to be "Don't be evil." In the spring of 2018, however, the company purged the phrase from its internal and external documents. And according to ex-employee turned whistleblower Zach Zorfis, from its corporate culture as well. On Friday, Zorfis told American Family Radio host Sandy Rios that Google is working on what he calls an artificial intelligence supercomputer called the AI Manhatten project inside of Google. They're trying to create a control grid that captures all the information, video, audio, wherever you're at, stream it back to a centralized data repository, he stated. And then this AI, this godlike AI, is able to figure out what it is that you're doing, who you're associating with, and create a shadow Facebook profile that you don't know exists, but exists for them. According to the whistleblower, they're able to monitor everything that you'll be able to do, your real-time information, who your friends are, who your family members are, everything. Google is treading on dangerous ground, he argues, and all the more because he says the tech giant is stocking its ranks with what kind of engineers? Chinese engineers.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Next, Bob.
Why Chinese engineers? This is what China wants to do, he emphasizes. They're trying to install a Chinese social credit system so that everything that you do is monitored. And then if you start to do anti-government activities, then you become an unperson online. You have a social media account suppressed, their financial instruments start to be canceled, you can no longer take money online. Do no evil, dropped as their motto, both internally and externally on documents. Dropped. Why would they drop that?
I was listening to Sam Rios this morning. That's how I heard about him this morning. I was listening to her. She was talking about exactly
And, you know, you
that
have-
they had it, that even she had it.
The Chinese created,
He's in hiding too.
the
He's
Chinese,
in hiding.
the Chinese
That guy.
created this social account in which basically you can't buy or sell or move if you got a bad number.
You need a mark on that.
And so I brought these same people that developed this over in China to Google here in the United States.
Yeah, he's in hiding.
Just the same time, apparently, that they dropped Do No Evil.
Did you see the other day on the news, Ron?
He's afraid for his life.
They showed on the international news, they showed lines and lines of people that are applying for Google and Amazon. They said they're blocks long, they showed on TV. They're like hiring one, 1,000 or something like 500 people or something like that. But they had a line all the way up there. Newscasters would show people fill out applications or something like that.
This guy's afraid for his life. He's hiding.
Yeah.
Because Google is
They're,
connected.
they're,
The thing is how do you, there's really no defense against this, you wouldn't think, because they collect all this information, and if
They
you
have
don't,
it all.
if you don't line up with it, then you're done. But people think, well, this is what I'll do, I'll just drop off of everything, and it doesn't work that way.
No.
It doesn't matter if you're online. You're online no matter if you are on.
It's too late anyway.
But and
They're
the whole thing,
following you all the
and the whole thing of it is it's also cameras. It's cameras in
There's
everywhere.
cameras everywhere.
My show's already up there.
It's going to be all tied in with cameras, street cameras, just
There's
like
cameras
in
everywhere.
China. In
Yeah.
China, they got a zillion cameras up,
And
and
who do
that
you
all
think
ties
are
into
manning
that.
ours, maybe?
Here's the question.
George Orwell.
Here's the question that we need to ask ourselves.
Soros.
Have we prepared our family and friends? Have we prepared our family and friends? Because
Yeah.
here's the conversation that you don't have to have today. You don't have to have tomorrow. I'm going to tell you something. In the near future, we need to have it. You need to tell all your family and friends that they're going to come for you. They're going to come for me. But they're not just going to come for me. They're going to come for everybody else that I know. So, you being here at this church, you come to this meeting, when they come for me, they'll come for all of everybody else.
Uh-oh.
And the same thing's going to be for your family. They're going to come for your family. So the question of it is, you just need to tell them this is what's, you're going to sound like crazy if you tell them now. But in the very near future, you need to tell everybody this. Because everybody you know is going to get rounded up too, just like they do in China. Everybody, and it first starts with a social credit score. And because you know me, your credit score is gonna go down, just automatically. But there'll come a time when they wanna arrest me, they'll come for you too. So you just gotta realize that this is what we're facing.
And they don't play fair either, by the way. When they come for you, you're going to say, well, you know, you're gonna stand up for who you are. You're gonna say, well, I'm a Christian and everything. They're gonna go, well, you know what, we've been following you online, and your online personality says you're not, because this is what you do.
Yeah, but what if you're not online?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
They'll find you.
The cameras,
They
it's
already
gonna be,
have
it's gonna be eventually tied in with all the street cameras. They'll know whether or not you're going to church.
So my advice is when they do that, you better be living the life of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to stand innocent before this world and clean in Christ. If you're going to be accused of something, if they aren't going to have leverage on you to be used against your family, against other people, against you, then you might as well be accused of being sold off for Christ. Because that's the only way that you won't survive it, but at least you'll leave this world clean.
So not only cameras, but smartphones. It'll tell you whether or not you're at church right now. It'll look and say, oh, Glenn, he was at Clinton Church of Christ.
Oh, it has it in it.
Sure. They'll know every place you've ever been.
Everybody.
So just because you're online doesn't mean anything.
Such a time.
Or like
Yeah, but
the little box somebody gave you for a gift that you say, hey Alexa, are you relying on me?
exactly.
They know everything.
But remember, she said she works for Amazon.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting.
Which is owned by who?
So
You know what's interesting is you go back, and you read Matthew 24, you read it slowly. It says in there that parents will rise up against the kids, and kids against the parents, and basically betray them, love and many will grow cold. So in other words, the family members are turning family members.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And
it could be that, it could be that, or it could be family members denying that they're a Christian and
Well, yeah, it could be very vulnerable.
denying that they share that same belief
Right. What's
So-
in Christ.
earlier
So
on?
it was a good thing that I took my cell phone apart.
Well, it's, when they don't play fair, they don't play fair. They'll come to people, there's a lot of people in our church, and they'll say, do you like getting a check every month? Do you like your Social Security? Do you like doing what you're doing?
One more thing, do you like living in the house that you live in?
Yeah, yeah.
This building right here,
Mm-hmm.
I fully
It could go
suspect
away.
is gone in 10 years.
Yeah.
Fully suspect. If I'm the pastor here, this church will be gone. Because we will not compromise. And this church will be gone. It'll be confiscated.
And you're going to find out who really are Christians in that day, because they're going to reason in their mind, well, God wouldn't put me in this situation, you know, and they're going to say, I have to live somehow. Well, no, you don't. You can die for Christ too. That's the other alternative.
Well, another thing that Brian brought up, I think it's right on target too, is the book of Revelation. I think it's Church of Samaria. He said that you're going to go through suffering for 10 days. He names the number of days. Well, when this happens, though, we won't know how long we'll be in jail or prison. But it's interesting how God encouraged people then by telling them how many days they would be in. You know, they would have to suffer, maybe die. They need 10 days. Now we won't know how long we might be able to, hear from them.
Well, I've always stopped up, but I've all, a lot of times, and it's worked out in the You know, I've told people over the years that we start living by faith. We start living by faith the first day that we have nothing. That's when we start living by faith.
That's true.
So it's good to stock up. I mean, we might have a terrible winter, and it's good to have some food stocked up. You know, who knows? I know people canning, you know, and stuff. That's good. But the truth of it is the first day that we have nothing is when we'll be living by faith. We always tell people it's easy to say that you live by faith and get a paycheck every Friday.
Right.
It's easy to say that. When the paycheck's not there, and you're living on the street because they've seized your home, they've thrown your families and all your associates, then we're living by faith. See, could this happen? Well, it's happening in Iran right now.
It's happening in a lot.
It's happening all over the world. It's
Exactly.
it's not really happening here in the United States. We're the exception.
Turkey, I don't know, they don't have a very large number.
Like I said, we've been granted a time right now, and we're living in that time,
This is
but
our
that time
time.
will end. It'll end.
And
This is our time.
we will know in our knower that it's worth living for Christ. That whatever we have to pay is worth it, living with God for everlasting God. It's worth it. It's all worth it.
Yep.
And we just say, yep, it's, it's like I do. Yeah, it's worth it. All the present
But we
trials
don't
and
know.
tribulations.
We're not
We
going
really need to
through.
be there. We really need to be there.
That's why I kind of laugh at people when they say, well, you better watch out because they're coming for your guns. No, son, they're coming for you.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true.
What was that one where I think Bonhoeffer made it kind of stupid, where when they came to the Jews, they did not listen, when they came from this person and that person, and then finally they came to me and nobody's there.
There was nobody there.
That was a famous guy in Germany, right? They went through what Hitler did.
Revelations. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So this is about the coming of Christ, the second coming of Christ, and Satan ready to do whatever he has to do to stop Christ and the gospel. So, and there was a war in heaven. Michael and his archangels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Satan is cast. People say, well, Satan appeared to be probably did it. Satan is happy in heaven because he can still accuse us before God. But there's coming a day, another battle, in which Satan will be cast here on earth. So now, Satan no longer has access to heaven. He no longer can accuse us. So now he's here with with Christians. So the great dragon, verse 9 of chapter 12, and the great dragon was cast out, and the old serpent called the devil and Satan, which is deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out on the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. There's no demonic influence whatsoever now in heaven. It's all cast down here on earth. So now Satan is mad, and his demons, which enjoyed being able to still be able up to heaven and accuse us. So now Satan is very upset. This is what But verse 10 is what I want to say. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation, strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of the brethren is cast down, which accuseth them before God day and night. So there's going to be a coming a time where Satan may appear to us when he's cast here down earth, when demons will literally come at us. But notice, after all this talk about Satan being cast down and come against the church, notice it says a voice comes out of heaven saying, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God. See, we're talking about how difficult it's going to be, but that's when revival is going to break out. Why? Because God has strengthened us. God has empowered us. When we discern the times and we know what God is doing, we read his word here, and we see that we're getting closer and closer to the return of Christ. And when we see Satan, when we see all around us an increase in demonic activity, God is going to give us the strength. And we always say, well, I wish the church was like the first church. Well, be careful what you ask for. But the truth of it is, the reason why there was a great revival is because there was great persecution. And that's always been the case. It's not just a Bible thing. We could take a look at China, most Christian nation probably right now on the face of the earth, all came from persecution. Now, Iran is another example, severe Muslim extremist country, and yet people are coming to Christ. They see how bankrupt all the other religions are. They see how bankrupt Islam is in Iran's case. It's like I said, Iran's got a 5,000-year history, and this is the worst time ever in human history because they're following Islamic law very strictly, and they see that as a result of that is that there's no life. And so people are coming to Christ because Christ can give not only an everlasting life, but an abundant life and life, period. So God's going to give us strength. So, yes, time's going to get difficult, but God's also going to anoint us and give the church. There's always going to be a church here. Will there be you and me here? I don't know. I kind of think so, but maybe not. Maybe Brian's going to keel over dead, and I'm going to keel over dead before this ever happens. Maybe the rapture's going to come, and we're all gone out of here. But there's always going to be a church. And that church that we read about in the book of Revelations is going to be empowered. In the 12th chapter is going to be given strength. That's a voice comes out and says, this is the salvation and the strength. Remember, salvation is a big word. Yeah. It means also deliverance. Right. This is the deliverance and the strength that God has given the church now. Because Satan has been cast down, I'm going to give the church renewed strength.
We're going to see, the church is going to see a time of miraculous deliverance. Not, as corporately, as a whole, they're going to see deliverance, but there'll be a lot of persecution and a lot of people dying. But there will be a lot of deliverance in that time. God is going to do miracles like we've never seen.
I'm working on a sermon. It might be next Sunday. What? Yeah. I'm going to give you a copy of it.
Listen to my radio station.
But say you're 100, you know what, 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe of the nation of Israel to go out, to get saved, and go out and preach the gospel. Mm-hmm. The most difficult thing that they're going to have to explain, it just dawned on me. The most difficult thing is when God is bringing judgment upon the world. Obvious judgment. And the world's going to know that it's God. I mean, even the book of Revelation tells us that they're going to know that it's judgment from God.
And
they'll
continue.
Okay. How do you explain the love of God?
Yeah, see, that's the argument that I'm having today,
Yes.
that
But,
the love of God is not the love that you are talking about.
see, and that's what I'm going to talk about maybe in a couple weeks or a week or so.
Good point.
Is that how does 144,000 talk about the love of God when judgment is coming down?
True love is true Jesus.
So, I mean, we should be thinking about this already. Brian, I know, thinks about it, but this is, you know, how can we tell people about the love of God when we see judgment coming upon? I'm thinking of Romans chapter 1, because I'm talking to some lady whose daughter is a lesbian, and she just called yesterday.
Wonderful.
But Romans chapter 1 tells us that because, you know, men having an unnatural affection for men and women having an unnatural, that the recompense of their evil has come upon them. How do you tell about the love of God and then tell them this is what happens, this is the recompense of evil?
Because God has provided the way out. Whether or not we accept that. See, that's what the whole thing is. People don't want to accept
The way out.
the way out.
It's just like that old Bible hymn,
You don't.
trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but trust and obey. The only way, trust and obey God's word.
Well, you know, it says that they did not repent of their, you know, their witchcraft and sexual immorality, et cetera, et cetera.
So the love of God hasn't changed. The sacrifice is still there. It's whether or not you reject the love of God.
Faith enough
If
is
you
like,
reject the love of God, all you have left is evil.
Exactly.
Well, somebody once said, if you take good,
It
you
seems
take God out of
like
good, all you
it's
got is zero.
rejected all the
they
time.
got, faith enough is like, what's
I have
nobody
this, I
that
have the
works
same
that
argument
might
with
be
young
a whole
people
thing.
all the time. Well, how can you say that what they have, they're homosexuals, and what they have isn't true love? Well, it's not true love. True love doesn't do that.
Moving on.
They don't know what love is.
Foreign Minister of Israel has invited all the nations of the earth to celebrate the third temple.
Is that?
Foreign Minister of Israel. Foreign Minister who happens to be a Cohen, the foreign minister right now is of the priestly lineage.
Oh, really?
Yes. He's inviting all nations to the third temple.
Wow.
Mm.
And,
There's a revelation living out.
yes, he's invited all nations to when they build the third temple to come. And they've also are now cracking down on any organization that has any connections to Turkey. Notice Turkey is moving a little further south. They're now moving into Syria. That only leaves Syria and then, you know, Israel. So Ezekiel 38.
Are we looking for a hook here?
Yeah. Might be looking for it. But anyhow, they're inviting all nations to come to see the third temple, which, by the way, Erdogan, the Turkish Prime Minister President, is not happy about either one of these things. Not happy at all.
He doesn't look happy.
No.
No.
Looks like,
Something is bad.
looks like you're
He's having a
second,
bad.
looks like you're second lemons for about 3 years.
Wonderful.
He thinks he's gone.
Here is an article
A lot of these things.
about Shelbyville, Tennessee. Sleepy little town in Tennessee. I think it's probably about, I have no idea, but I think I've been by this place, Shelbyville. I think it's probably like the size of the wood or the coat there. I'm not really sure. But anyhow, our previous president invited a bunch of refugees to come in
Of course.
from Somalia. And Somalian refugees are not stimulating well because they're used to a Muslim majority. So they come into this country and they have quite a little cultural clash. Well, anyhow, apparently some of them have become violent and they started shooting up churches. First church that they shoot up in Shelbyville. The night of September 27th, 2016, so this is kind of old news, they shoot up 3 churches, starting with the Horse Mountain Church of Christ. 16 shots shot into the church. Then
Anybody get hit?
no, nobody got hit. Then the Philippi United Methodist Church was shot up. And then the Bickford County Agricultural Center, where they have a church service at, where somebody just rents there. All 3 places were shot up, and things are just getting worse. But
You know,
that.
the other night, it was really strange, but I heard, like, lots of people in the street. Remember I told you about that? There were, and I could hear them yelling and, carrying on and walking past our house. There was nobody there, but I could hear all these people yelling and shouting, going.
Well, if you're in my neighborhood, people yell.
You would, yeah.
Yell so loud that you can. They're probably 4 blocks away, but you can still hear them.
We don't have, a lot of traffic on our street. And I was like, I told one about it. I said, it was kind of after I saw that girl on Facebook. I saw her talking to, all these kids. It was after that I had, and it was like I was awake, and I could hear all these people.
Yeah.
It was like, what? Just yelling and screaming, and it seemed to me like, we have a cross in front of the house, we have, what we did. And, they know, everybody knows us. So, I was like, are they coming for us? They saw these signs and they're yelling, it was terrible. And I told him about it. That's not the first time. And I've heard voices. Is that weird?
I've had that, no.
Have you heard voices too?
Yeah, I've actually had.
I've had my
same
name
thing
called,
where
I don't know how many
I
times.
heard people yelling down the streets and
Yeah.
actually, when I
And
was
there's nobody there.
a young Christian, I had this thing that it was so real. I walked out my front door to see who it was. I heard this guy preaching, walking through a storm, preaching down our street, walking by. And I went up to see who it was. There was nobody there.
Years ago, I don't know if anybody else has seen it, but I saw a guy walking through town, and he was dressed all in white, and he had a beard, and he was walking through town. This was during the day. I was driving along, and I saw this guy. I don't think anybody else ever saw.
Wow.
I really don't. And this was quite a few years ago.
Or he's the guy in white, or was the guy in black?
Oh, he had white all the way,
Sometimes when we have those things, it's after prayer.
and he was walking through the town. It was like, was he leaving town? He was going that whole direction, away, it was on Comanche Avenue. It was where I saw him was on Comanche Avenue, and he was like right close by your house. walking. Yeah. I was like, wow, this is something.
Yeah.
And, you know, I told Glenn about it. You know, nobody else ever saw it. Nobody ever said anything about it. This person.
Yeah.
Huh?
I've had things like that before.
I heard strange stuff like
And I had my name called recently, like 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night. And I'm going, Glenn, are you up? Because I'm going, are you up? You know,
That's the time to pray.
what do you want?
If you hear your name in the middle of the night, you get up and pray.
This was, where's that saying though?
Maybe if he calls me by, you know, if he calls me Elizabeth, then I'll call it him. So far it's been Debbie. I'm like, Glenn.
that. Interesting.
And he's laying right there, sound asleep. But I'm yelling for him. Glenn, is that you? What do you want? I usually say, what? And I'm not sleeping, and I hear it just as plain and it's
I
plain.
hear sounds sometimes at night like someone's flashing the radio or the television.
Yeah, I hear that
It
a
sounds
lot.
like-
But I
It
live
sounds
by
like the mumbo
I
jumbo
live
of
by the
noise.
tower, you know, the tower is right there.
If I have my
And the lines are
that money,
all over.
people
So I
go
think that
ties
somehow I'm hearing
music,
that too.
gold glass of
I
power.
can hear
When you hear
I can
your
hear
name,
people talking.
Huh?
when you hear your name, nobody's there, that's God calling you to pray.
Wow, cool. Wow, cool. And I do, you know, I pray, but I'm like, Glenn.
But that's like that time
What?
in a dream I saw a white figure sitting
Here
in the
recently,
brain.
this is
Well, back
happening.
in high school. And anyway, figure said, I'm coming soon, very soon, in fact, I'm on my way. And I knew it was Jesus, but I couldn't see that. I only saw like an outline, silhouette. But I get it, all of a sudden my hair standing on end, I got goosebumps. I was scared, but it was like almost like a roller coaster type of fear. It wasn't you know, like how we breathe, but I mean, it was exhilarating, but it was scary at the same time. I had to go back on.
I had the Grim Reaper in the corner of the bedroom. Boy, was that scary.
We were living at the house
Don't
where
know,
I
I
saw
was
something too.
Whoa.
I saw something
What
black.
is he doing here? Yeah, it was,
that already?
yeah. It was.
What was that?
Okay, yeah, I got two things I wanted to just kind of share with you. One that happened during our vacation, our trip. And one was the dangers of unchecked immigration. Which unchecked immigration, which kept on kind of coming up, oddly enough, in some of the most unlikely places. Jackson City, Wyoming, and Little Bighorn,
Yeah.
oddly enough. And maybe I'll talk about that next week. But this week I want to talk about, we all know that from this meeting, we've been here very long, that there's a super volcano under
Oh,
Yellowstone.
yeah.
Yeah.
But supposedly destroyed North America, the North American continent, twice. So, when you go to Yellowstone, the one thing you hope to see is Old Faithful. Well, when we got there, in the courtyard of Yellowstone, where Old Faithful's at, there's actually 3 geysers that's in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Steamboat, Old Faithful, and then there's another one. Well, right before I went, Steamboat geyser continues to break historical yearly eruption records.
I saw that.
The day that I was there, all 3 geysers were going on.
Really? I've never
All 3 were
seen Old
going.
Faithful.
All 3 were going off. Old Faithful went off twice.
Never seen.
Once in the morning, once in the afternoon. I was there in the afternoon. It already went off once. So I got all these pictures of Old Faithful blowing up off from here.
Wow.
But what was really kind of eye-opening is all of Yellowstone is going off. Not just the 3
it's all over.
all over the park, it's venting smoke. Because when a geyser starts, it starts by venting smoke. Okay? And the smoke, by the way, has arsenic, cyanide, and mercury in it.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
Arsenic, cyanide, and mercury. And highly poisonous, highly toxic.
Very good.
Wow. So everybody's watching in this park ranger at Old Faithful. Really good guy. Really smart, really good guy. So I pull him aside and I go, you know, there's a lot of increased earthquake activity here at Yellowstone. And I noticed that everywhere it's venting. There is a place in Yellowstone called Roaring Mountain. Roaring Mountain. And when you go at a distance, it looks like it's a snow-covered mountain. It's not snow-covered. The whole mountain is a geyser.
Wow.
Wow.
We're not talking Old Faithful, you know, like about this high. Mountain. And mountain ranges that are going on. We were driving
Did
through
you were
Yellowstone,
you restricted?
venting everywhere. No, we
You
weren't.
weren't restricted anywhere?
No,
I have heard that they were restricting people
no, that,
because they're everywhere. Because-
Well, they're restricting
Not
people because people want to go and take selfies, you know, they'll take pictures of themselves in places. They're denying people access. There's a few people go down to Arizona because they go past barriers if they have people fall off because they're trying to take selfies.
well, and the other thing is,
I didn't know
That measures that way.
that. I haven't been there for years.
there's so many cameras on Old Faithful that are not, they're just private. You get subscribed and look at Old Faithful.
Right.
And so everybody's looking at Old Faithful.
They
And
should be
two
looking at the
guys-
whole park.
Two guys were actually stepping on, this year, like a month ago. Two guys and were stepping on Old Faithful, looking down in the hole.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, stop,
yeah.
stupid.
And all over the world, all of a sudden Yellowstone's phones lit up. And Yellowstone answered and they said, "Can we help you?" And they said, "Yeah, you know that there's two guys standing on Old Faithful?" And they didn't even know it. But there's so many other people, the phone banks just went
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, yeah, they're.
And so they went out there and they got the people, and oh my lands, I didn't, you know, that is.
What happened to them?
I think they got 10 years.
Oh, they did. They did take them away.
Oh yeah, they tried to. It's a major federal crime because it's destruction of
Property.
a national property.
Exactly.
Oh, you mean
So,
I would imagine,
walking
wouldn't
on it.
walking on it?
Yes.
I'd be imagined. Who would even
Well,
want to
here's-
do that?
And this is what the park ranger.
Poison in your city.
You got that poison coming up in you.
Okay.
Mercury.
It gets a-
breathe. Think of liver on.
Mercury, arsenic,
That
and
goes to your
cyanide.
brain.
Mercury.
Well, remember, we have people have half a brain.
And
It'll
what they're
go to
talking.
your brain, your heart. I mean, mercury. I mean, it
Oh, I
goes
know.
That'll
to
kill you.
your body.
Well, anyhow, the park ranger was really good. He goes, we've discovered this from Ireland, not Ireland, but Iceland. Iceland has geysers.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, their geysers stopped
In
in Iceland. A lot of them stopped. And they discovered that you cannot drill 60 miles away in the ground. You have to drill past 60 miles. So now, in order for you to drill into the ground, you have to get federal permission within 60 miles of a known geyser, so basically 60 miles from Yellowstone. Anybody closer will not be permitted to drill into the ground. when you drill in the ground close by a geyser, even within like 50 miles, it changes the whole inward plumbing. And then
That'd be drilling on the ground for fracking?
So, exactly.
So fracking,
So, I mean, that to me is just also tells me that fracking does
Causes earthquakes.
causes earthquakes. Because it affects the plumbing. And there's like record numbers, and I got it right here. Signs of the time, earthquake swarms in Texas, Oklahoma, San Francisco, and the new Madrid fault line.
Yeah, because KC just posted the other day, southeast Missouri had an earthquake. And it's a series of them on the new Madrid fault line.
Yep, that is true.
Keith Bailey.
It started with a 2.6 magnitude tremor at 11:18 a.m. On must have been about the 1st of October.
Sounds about right.
In the small city the small city of Livorno.
yeah, we don't come to
And then 3 minutes later, a 1.1 magnitude quake rumbled nearby. Just before 11:30 a.m., a 2.7 quake hit Livorno again, which is on the new Madrid fault line. Followed by a 1.8 earthquake 5 minutes later. It would be 23 minutes before the next quake, another 2.7 hit the same place. The new Madrid seismic zone is the most active earthquake zone east of the Rocky Mountains. It spans southeastern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and southern Illinois. Between 1811 and 1812, the new Madrid Fault experienced some of the largest quakes in history.
that.
And although they originated in the Mississippi Valley, they rang church bells in
Yeah.
Boston
I
and
heard
New
that
York,
story.
and shook New York City 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Even then, President James Madison and his wife Dollar reportedly felt shaking at the White House.
So, what year was the one in Alaska?
That was 65.
1964.
64.
Yes.
4 or 5.
That was-
64, I
That
think.
was huge.
Yeah. Well, it just took the tree
The
line.
largest-
Right now.
The largest earthquake in recorded history is 9.4, I think.
Was
Well,
that the
9.5.
one?
That was in China.
That was in China?
There was bigger ones, but the largest one in the United States.
It was in China?
No.
Well, there's
In
a world
Alaska?
record
No,
of
Chile.
9.5.
And the one
No,
in
it's
Chile.
Chile, I'm sorry.
The one in
Chile.
Chile.
You're right. Chile's the biggest.
Chile.
So what happened there? At a
Killed a lot of
9.4?
No, that was
What
90.
year was that?
That was
Oh, that was
19,
yeah, almost
80s? No,
80s or 90s.
yeah, 80s or 90s.
Oh, really? That big of
Yeah.
a?
My sister was in a bad earthquake in
Still
1971.
about 12,000
San
people.
Yeah, it
Fernando
was
Valley.
9.8.
Yeah,
Well,
California's
Italy's
was 9.4
been
or something.
Yeah,
earthquakes for quite a while.
yeah, the record's 9.8.
The cathedral
Increased
was
multiple.
almost
Ron's right, is in Chile.
destroyed.
Biggest one.
But anyhow, there's definitely a shaking going on.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, finally this last story, this made huge news. A Dallas police officer lady shot a black guy in his apartment while he's eating ice cream.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
she's convicted of murder.
And then the guy who testified.
And he
died.
forgives her?
He's still-
She thought it was her apartment apparently.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But anyhow, the big thing about it is the outrage that the judge came down
Right.
and hugged her. Now, you could I watched probably 20 stories on this and never did really hear exactly all that happened.
All the details. Yeah. But the guy forgave her.
His younger,
Was it?
the guy's younger brother, who was 18,
Yeah. He's seen hugging her.
well, that's all you see was him hugging her.
He was killed 2 days later.
Was he killed?
He was killed.
Who
Yep.
killed him?
They don't know. Yeah.
Why would they
He
kill
said,
him?
well, probably for retaliation for a cop going to prison. That's what they think.
For what?
For a cop going to prison,
Yeah.
retaliation. They think
Oh.
it's
Or
retaliation.
hug-
The
or
car
hug-
pulled up, took 2 shots, or 3 shots, 1 in the head and 2 in the.
This guy,
Kill him.
his brother took a lot of criticism. And,
Oh, and
He
then he
was-
was killed.
Yeah, he was killed. He
Oh,
died.
for crying out loud.
Yeah,
I
he
didn't
died
know
2 days-
who
he
was
died 2 days
killed.
ago.
I heard somebody
Yeah.
killed
He was
that was pertaining
Well,
to
they,
that.
they said that he was a reluctant witness anyway. He didn't want to do it, but he was subpoenaed, I guess, to do
the
that.
reason why is because he'd forgiven him. Both the judge and the younger brother were both Christians. And both of the guy said, if it was me, I have forgiven you. As, you know, I'm a Christian, I've forgiven you. And if it was me, you would not get any prison time.
Right.
And he goes, I want to hug her. And so he went over and hugged her.
He wasn't one of the shots.
The
I don't know what the story
The
is.
judge went down, again hugged her.
Did he
But,
die too?
No, just the witness.
The brother.
Brother,
Oh.
it was testimony.
this is what the judge handed her a Bible. So you read, like, say, you see 20 stories and not see this.
Yeah.
The hug was the big thing. But handed her a Bible, and this is part of what the judge said to her. You just need a tiny mustard seed of faith. You start with this, she said, giving the Bible to guide her. And then it seemed like to me, she said, read this and it'll change your life.
Yes.
But none of that was
Of
covered.
Of course not.
And of course it all started at, watched the
Well,
shows.
you don't really know what the whole story was
Well,
about what happened.
the most important thing.
Was she after somebody else?
It just seemed
No.
like a pretty crazy.
She went back to her
story, but-
apartment. And she
Her
got,
apartment.
right, okay, here's how it goes. She's going to her apartment, which is on a different level than hers is.
One floor difference.
One floor different. She goes to the room, and she hears noise in the room.
She thinks that this is her apartment.
Her
She
apartment.
made a mistake.
However, how his apartment and her apartment can look
She
the
didn't knock
same.
on the door, she just walks in and sees something, goes freeze. I don't think she even said freeze, but she said something about, put your hands up or something, and the guy turns and goes, boom, boom, boom.
He was eating ice cream on the couch.
Well, couch, whatever, but I mean, he was eating popcorn and
I
watching
mean,
a
the whole
movie.
story sounds really fishy.
Yeah, it does.
But here's the thing.
But she could have got it.
There's another thing here too, when you talk
That's
about
I've been confused for something.
apartments that look the same.
confused. But there was.
The whole thing was
signs
crazy.
of- It wasn't her apartment, there was a man outside that wasn't hers. She told at the court, there's other things that were, the door had some kind of something on it, decoration, something, anyway. But, so it wasn't her, something was fishy, but I think she was.
The whole
prejudiced
story
or
was
something.
fishy. The whole story is fishy.
It's-
But here's the thing that I think is important. Because after I watched probably 20 stories of this, and to be quite honest with you, Glenn Beck, who's a Mormon, probably had the best coverage of the story of any story I saw. Fox, CNN, didn't matter, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS. They all just minimized the fact of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgiveness. We live in a culture because after the talk shows was all about white privilege. She's white, she gets a hug. The judge would never hug a black person, even though she was black. She would never hug a black. It's white privilege, at its finest. That's all I heard. Okay. The truth of it is, and people were angry at the brother. They were angry at the judge.
Do you think she's gonna die?
But the problem is the world
From?
does not want to forgive.
No.
The central theme of Christianity is about forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Christ came to die for us
She forgave
so that our
us, we need to
sins would
forgive
be
others.
forgiven. And then we cannot, our prayers can be answered if we harbor
Right.
unforgiveness.
Right.
But in the world, it's all about vengeance. And that's the reason why there's so much anger
Oh,
in the
geez.
world
what I was gonna say.
Because it's not about forgiveness, it's about vengeance.
My
The
whole
best
thing-
thing that can happen is if the stupid computers were all.
Well, that's just it.
All
And
blown
what I
up.
was gonna say is, my whole thing is it's tried in the public court, wherever hits the courts. So, it's decided what's gonna happen before the courts are becoming irrelevant.
So it doesn't matter,
Because it's on
so
social
take
media.
vengeance anyway.
The media is the judge now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we're coming to 1984 truly because it's the whole court system is a theater of the media. It's decided on Facebook before you'll ever see a court date on it.
And Paul Harvey, didn't he have a thing about?
No, but what about
There's a
Channel
famous
6?
commentary that went back to
What's going on with
1965.
Channel 6,
I know.
612?
The original commentary was 1965.
I'm not
Paul Harvey.
been getting that.
I used to listen to him in the
having
70s.
trouble.
Every day.
You know, it's really weird. You have to give time. If somebody dies, they have to have time to leave the relatives before they can distribute news. You shoot somebody, you're on TV the next day.
What are they doing?
Well, look at Fox
Good
News.
signal or what?
No, it's.
Every time you
Channel
turn
6
around,
costs
all the
so much
network
money.
goes.
Sometimes cable cuts
All
it out.
they do is prosecute Trump 24
I don't
hours
have
a day,
cable, I got
365 days a
an
year.
indoor antenna.
Those are that way.
It's the Trump network. Every time you turn around, they all do is bring down Trump. You gotta find something on him. And then they want to get him out of office, and Lori goes, well, that's okay, because they have Pence. They're going to go after him too.
Why did Boris marry?
They're going to go after him too.
Yeah.
Because they want power. The Democrats want power. They want, it's because Nixon line. If they take out Trump, they take out Pence, it's going to be Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, you got to Darwin's.
I told Benny
Yes, what?
what I do on Thursday mornings, and he
how's that line up
sounded
with-
interested.
So how did that line up with possibly with Syria?
Oh.
We could be the beginning stages of Ezekiel 38, 39.
Did you hear me there? I told Benny.
That concludes this edition of The Last 7 Days. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Spreaker or GJRB. Join us next time, here on Spreaker, for another podcast of The Last 7 Days on GJRB. This has been a GJRB podcast presentation. Recently, the owner of Facebook had to face Congress over personal information on Facebook users. In addition, users were saying that their postings were being deleted. Getting sick and tired of your censorship and your data being used without your permission? Do something about it now. Come to MeWe, the internet social site that values your freedom. No more deleted postings. Make a step to freedom. Sign up today. It's easy. Go to www.mewe.com. That's M-E-W-E. MeWe, the internet's free speech social site.
Lord, I know I gave my word that I'd help serve food this weekend, but I just got 2 tickets for front row seats at the big game this Saturday. What do you want me to do? Show me your will. Okay, heads, I go to the game. Now, Lord, you provided these tickets, so to be absolutely sure, tails, I go to the game. Okay, I'll serve food if the phone rings within the next 2 seconds.
Often our struggle with God's will is not so much in knowing what He wants us to do, but in being willing to do it.
Okay, Lord, I know I gave my word to help serve, so if you want me to not use these valuable tickets and miss my opportunity to go to the big game, then let a herd of elephants run through my front room. Okay, that could happen. How about elephants on bicycles? Bummer.
Are you willing to do God's will? Another message from Lifeline Productions, the comic strip of radio, at lifelinepro.com.
Imagine one day tuning around on your internet radio only to find a station playing old radio programs complete with commercials and thinking, what am I tuning into? The past? You might be, or it's just GJRB Online and Radioland. A day of nothing but classic radio shows back to back with classic commercials in between, like the days of radio. Almost like your computer is picking up signals through time. Closer than you'll ever get to time travel. Radioland. America's Street Music is back on GJRB Bluegrass with the Grassgolds, Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys, and so much more. So it's time to bring it back, and on more often. It's Bluegrass Jubilee Freestyle with all the great songs you heard before and some new up-and-coming stars with some emerging bluegrass. Also, some all-time gospel favorites too. Every third Saturday at 3 o'clock Central on GJRB. The weird, the strange, the bizarre, way out fun, way out there. Another show coming soon on GJRB Online.
This is GJR Broadcasting.